Okay, I'm Tom Hairgrove, Extension Veterinarian with the Department of Animal Science, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension.
I'm Ron Gill, Extension Livestock Specialist at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension here in the Department of Animal Science. We're here today to talk about the changes that are coming related to prescription antibiotics and the change from over-the-counter access on some products to making them prescription. You want to explain just a little bit about how that's going to work?
Okay, so basically what's going to happen is the last three drugs, the last three classes of drugs that you can still buy over the counter at a feed store, co-op, etc., are going to become prescription items. In other words, you're going to have a relationship with a veterinarian. You're going to have a prescription to purchase those drugs after the 11th of June this year.
What compounds in particular are we talking about?
Okay, so basically it's going to cover your penicillins. It's going to cover your tetracyclines like terramycin, all your biomycin, all the oxytetracyclines, and it's going to cover Tylen. Those are three injectables. And it's going to cover sulfoboluses, and then it's going to cover some intermammary infusions. But that's what will affect beef cattle.
Okay, and it might be important to point out that things like monensin and lisalosid are not falling on that because they're not medically important.
They're not medically important antibiotics. Medically important, there's several antibiotics out there other than your ionophores, but medically important antibiotics defined by the FDA is antibiotics important to the human medical profession.
Okay. Well, that kind of sets the stage. You know, we've had access to those for years over the counter. Mm-hmm. So moving forward, how are we going to access those products?
Okay, the only way you can access those products is if you have a relationship with a veterinarian. And so, again, getting back to the veterinary client-patient relationship. And basically, it's pretty simple. You sit down with a veterinarian, and it's going to be like different with different clinics, right? Different philosophies. Some people do a lot of haul-in practice, don't like to go through, but you've got to figure a way, you've got to work out a way that they have knowledge of your animals, that they can be there for follow-up, and that they can give a legal prescription.
Okay. Like I said, that's going to be a very different relationship
with different
across different veterinarians
exactly.
Within the same production area as well.
Exactly.
So you've got to find one you can work with, and they're willing to work with you in your scenario. And you know, you brought up the veterinary client-patient relationship. We hear that talked about as VCPR. I think we just need to understand that just means we got to have a working relationship with a veterinarian. That's kind of a fancy term for it. But find you a vet you can work with. That way you can get access to antibiotics when you need them. And it's not going to be a major shift in how we do things. It's just an access point to where we have to start and get probably some better direction on how to use it. That's what we had when we had it over the counter. Okay. So I don't see any downside to that.
No, I see it is pretty much a plus. In other words, it's going to be maybe a little bit more hassle to get the antibiotics early on, but I think this is overall it's going to be good for everybody.
Yeah, and so I think just figuring out how to get that working relationship, really look at your preventative herd health plan with your veterinarian while you're at it, then figure out if you need access to these prescription products, then have you a system in place to get that done, and whether you keep an inventory or not. It's not going to be that onerous on us.
Right.
We just need to be prepared.
Exactly.